Hello, it's so good to be with you again. And looking in the Gospel of Luke and in chapter 2, we find out that in this great gospel, at the coming of Jesus, there were so many people who had waited for a very long time, even a lifetime, for the coming of the Messiah. We know that Zacharias and Elizabeth were to give birth to the forerunner of the Messiah, Jesus Christ. They waited a lifetime for that child to be born. We find out that there was a man serving, and his name was Simeon, and he was in the temple. Jesus was brought to him for the dedication, and he had believed that his eyes would not see death until he saw the Messiah. He had waited for a lifetime. Now here we're looking at a prophetess. She was in the temple as well at the dedication of Jesus. She was in her 80s. She had waited her whole life to see the fulfillment of her purpose. And in Luke chapter 2, starting to read in verse 36, there was a prophetess, Anna, the daughter of Phanuel, of the tribe of Asher. She was advanced in years, having lived with the husband 7 years after her marriage, and then as a widow to the age of 84. And she never left the temple, serving night and day with fastings and prayers. And at that very moment, she came up and began giving thanks to God and continued to speak of him to all those who were looking for the redemption of Jerusalem. Here was a woman who was a widow. She had been married when she was young, but she was only married for 7 years. So here's a story of a woman who had suffered loss and heartbreak. It's obvious as well that she didn't have any children because she dedicated herself to serve the Lord in the temple. So that might be another area where she didn't see the fulfillment of what she longed for. But you know what? She found a beautiful life and a fulfilling life because she lived to the age of 84. And she lived in the temple and she was fasting and praying. And day and night, she sought the Lord. You know, the Lord doesn't do anything on the earth except in response to the prayers of his people. This was a woman who prayed the Messiah in. She was a woman who longed to see God's plan. What I want to do is to think about today for just a moment the privilege and honor to be able to serve God our entire life. You know, someone could say the prime of her life was her growing up, her marriage for 7 years, and then suddenly everything changed. But then rather than just letting her life languish, she gave herself completely to the Lord, and the fulfillment of a lifetime came to her at 84 years old. How great is God? We can serve him for our whole life, and we're never shelved. As long as we're continuing to seek the Lord, he will seek us out to release his blessing. So let's be encouraged today. Don't quit. Keep pressing in. Did you lose a loved one? Did you lose a hope? Well, you still have your whole life ahead of you, and God's got a plan for you and a plan for me until we finally lay it down and we enter into the Lord's presence. Stay faithful. Amen.